Are you curious about the NAR Settlement Agreement? In this episode, we are going to review the 13 changes we have to adhere to. Join me on this eye-opening journey where I'll walk you through everything you need to know. It's all about full transparency, ensuring you feel informed and confident every step of the way. I'm Gina Fye, a real estate broker licensed in North and South Carolina with 2 decades of experience. First and foremost, I am not an attorney. My opinions are based on NAR education materials and other trainings, including some with attorneys. The core issue of lawsuit is steering under the mandatory cooperation and compensation rule. Some parties seek to legally decouple commissions, meaning buyers and sellers each pay their respective agents. Why did NAR settle? Well, lawsuits are expensive. Appeals can take years, and that cost gets really expensive. NAR could have had to post a bond up to $5.4 billion, and finding a bond company, well, that could be challenging as well. And then you've got all the copycat lawsuits. So the settlement makes it clear that NAR continues to deny any wrongdoing, but it also covers a nationwide class of home sellers, which means that ultimately all seller copycat lawsuits will be included. In July 21, President Biden signed an executive order promoting competition in the American economy. Under Section 5 of the executive order, this is where FTC has been ordered to investigate real estate practices further. A few months after President Biden signed the FTC executive order, the DOJ backed out of the signed settlement agreement with NAR. The media has said NAR set or guided commissions to a standard rate of 6%. Now, if you recall in part 3 of the series, commissions have been on a downward trend starting in 2009. Sadly, even President Biden was incorrect in his March 19th speech. He said the National Association of Realtors agreed for the first time that Americans can negotiate lower commissions when they buy or sell their home. NAR responded, commissions were already negotiable before this resolution, which was reached and will continue to be negotiable as they have been. Real estate agent commissions are driven by the market and not the cause of affordability crisis. Until there is an all-of-government approach to historic lack of inventory and supply in communities across the country, the dream of homeownership will remain out of reach for millions of middle-class Americans. Let's dive into the proposed changes. As we get ready to go through the proposed NAR settlement, we will review Section H58, which lists 13 practice changes NAR and the MLSs must implement that will affect buyers and sellers. Some of these required changes have already been in place for years and are remaining status quo. While this received preliminary approval, anything could change at any time, especially since the DOJ has once again reopened investigations against NAR. So let's dive in. H58 says we are supposed to implement practices as soon as possible. Implementation will be before August 17th. Number 1, prohibit the requirement of offers of compensation and prohibit any requirement that offers be blanket, unconditional, or unilateral. For clarifications for the past, offers of compensation, while required, could be as low as $1, and it has been that way for as long as I can remember. After what I assume was an attorney debate, it was changed to 0 a couple of years ago. Number 2, prohibit offers of compensation on the MLS. This one confuses me because originally the DOJ wanted more transparency among commissions. This settlement has no transparency among commissions. 2 and 3 really go together. 3 is eliminate all broker compensation fields in the MLS and do not share via any other MLS fields. 4, do not require membership in the MLS to offer or accept offers of compensation. This has been this was in the DOJ's original settlement agreement in 2020, and NAR has already implemented all those changes, even though the DOJ backed out of the signed settlement agreement. Do not create any non-mechanism as a database for listing brokers or sellers to make offers of compensation to buyer brokers. A broker can show offers of compensation for their listing on their website per NAR. If the listing broker or seller is offering compensation for the buyer broker, the listing agent can share that offer through their marketing, such as flyers, signs, or emails. 6, require buyers to enter into a written agreement before touring a listing. The agreement must specify the amount of compensation to be received. The agent may not receive compensation for services that exceeds the amount or rate agreed to in the agreement. For the Carolinas, what is new for us is requiring an agency agreement before showing a property, when before an agreement was required prior to the offer. In the Carolinas, we have been practicing buyer agency agreements for over 20 years. Here's a snip of the South Carolina Buyer Transaction Broker Form, South Carolina Buyer Broker Form, and North Carolina Buyer Agent Form. Note the blanks. Compensation has always been negotiable and is not a set standard. 7. Prohibit agents from representing brokerage services as free. Again, in 2020, the DOJ presented a signed proposed settlement and wanted buyer brokers not to say their services are free. NAR complied and made changes. DOJ backed out of the settlement in July of 21. Number 8. Listing brokers must disclose to sellers and obtain approval from sellers for any payment or offer to another broker representing a buyer. For North and South Carolina, our listing agreements outline how compensation will be paid, and they have done this for many years. 9. Commissions must be disclosed and notified. Commissions are not set by law and are fully negotiable. Commissions have always been negotiable. 10. Builders cannot filter or restrict MLS listings based on the existence or level of compensation offered to a buyer broker. Again, this was another 2020 settlement agreement. MLS and associations must rescind any rule inconsistent with these changes. Number 12, develop educational material that reflect each practice change. Number 13, and last but not least, the practice changes shall not prevent offers of compensation to buyer brokers off the MLS and shall not prevent sellers from offering buyer concessions on the MLS. So, who are the real winners? In a motion submitted to the court on February 29, 2024, the Sitzer-Burnett attorneys requested $82 million and the $13 million in expenses, representing approximately 40% of the initial 3 settlements. In their motion, they highlighted the significant risk they undertook by operating on a fully contingent basis. They emphasized that they had advanced nearly $13 million in out-of-pocket expenses with no assurance of reimbursement or compensation for their efforts, regardless of the outcome. Most attorneys working on contingency charge between 30 and 40% of the settlement. On May 9th, the judge awarded the plaintiff's attorneys 33 1/3% of the settlements plus their total expenses, which were around $13 million at the time. Also note that the named plaintiffs who took the stand were only awarded $25,000 each. Now, as we were going through the settlement, the attorneys constantly referenced or other representation. In Section 8, they identify other representation as a real estate attorney. This section refers to the requirement that payment to another broker or representation, i.e. attorney, will be in writing. I am going to make one more prediction. In the years to come, you will need to be an attorney to sell a house. This is another reason I believe it will get more expensive for buyers and sellers. Thank you for watching. Got questions? I'm here to help. Feel free to reach out with any inquiries. Don't forget to follow me on YouTube for more engaging content and updates. See you there. I'm Gina Fye, a licensed broker in North and South Carolina with 20 years experience.